the 12 days of Sister Saga, the angel Astrid. I am the one who stayed. On the 11th day of Christmas, January 5th, the day before Epiphany, the day before Revelation, Esmeralda woke to silence, heavy silence. The silence that comes when 11 people have spoken and only one remains. The silence of being the last one, the one who stays when everyone else has left. And in that silence, standing alone beside the cradle, was the 11th angel. She was not surrounded by others like the 9 dancers had been. She was not accompanied by swans or stars or flowers. She stood alone. And in her aloneness, she was magnificent. Her name was Astrid, divine strength, divine beautiful. "Hello, little faithful one," she said. "I'm Astrid. I have come on the 11th day, the day before everything is revealed, to teach you about faithfulness. Not the faithfulness we learned about from Elvira's 7 fruit. That was about keeping promises. This is different faithfulness. This is the faithfulness of staying when the person you love leaves. This is the faithfulness of being the one who remains when it could have been much easier to go. I had a man once. His name was Malcolm. I don't say it often anymore. 7 years have passed since he left. But today, on the 11th day, teaching you about staying, I will say it clearly. Malcolm. We were not married. We never got that far. But I thought we would have. I thought he was building a life with me, building a foundation, building an us. I was in my 20s, living in New York, working at the New York Times Magazine in the fashion department, creating beautiful things, styling photographs, making art from fabric and light. And Malcolm was my everything. Or so I thought. He said he loved me more than anyone else ever. Those were his exact words. "I love you more than anyone else ever." And I believed him, because I loved him more than anyone else ever too. We were going to be each other's foundation. I could see our future, the apartment we would share, the trips we would take, the late night conversations, growing old together. I could see it all. And then he left. Not for someone else that might have been easier to understand. He left for more. For something undefined, something out there, something he couldn't name but couldn't stop searching for. He said, "Astrid, I love you, but I need more." And here's the thing, little Esmeralda. I couldn't leave my life, the work I was building, the identity I was forming, the foundation I'd started to create in myself. I chose this even though he said to me, "You can come with me if you want, but I can't promise anything. I can't promise I'll find what I'm looking for. I can't promise you'll be part of what I'll do." I couldn't follow a man who didn't know where he was going and couldn't promise I would be part of his more. He wanted me to abandon everything for the possibility of nothing. So I stayed. I stayed with myself. I stayed with my work. I stayed in New York. I stayed with Astrid, and he left. And I became one of the 11. One of the faithful who remain when the 12 has gone. The 7 years. People talked. Of course they talked. Friends said, "Oh, poor Astrid. Malcolm left her. She wasn't enough to keep him interested." Or they said, "Why didn't you go with him? Why didn't you take your chance? My Lord, he's from the old money, the good..." Oh, I couldn't win. If I had gone with him, I would have been the desperate woman who abandoned her life to chase a man. If I stayed, which I did, I was the fearful woman who let love slip away because she was too scared to take a risk. Here's what I learned. Staying was not fear. Staying was not failure. Staying was not letting love slip away. Staying was choosing myself when he had already chosen to leave. Staying means divine strength. And it took 7 years. 7 years to stop wondering if I made the right choice. 7 years to stop imagining what might have happened if I'd gone with him. 7 years to stop checking secretly, guiltily, to see if he had found his more and whether I could have been part of it. 7 years. The number of completion, the number Celestine taught you about on the 5th day. The number that says, grief takes as long as it takes. And 7 years is not too long. I stayed with myself for 7 years and I was lonely. I have been lonely and angry at him for leaving, at myself for loving him, for trusting him, at the universe for making staying and leaving both feel like losing. And I wondered every single day, should I have gone with him? Should I have left everything? Should I have chosen him over myself? Even now, I don't know if I did the right choice. Maybe I should have risked becoming no one for the chance of becoming someone new with him. Staying is a choice, not a failure, not a default, not what happens when you're too scared to leave. Staying is an active choice. It's saying, I will remain here with myself, with my work, with my foundation, even when the person I love chooses to go. Let me be clear about something. Faithfulness is not the same as contentment. Staying does not mean being happy about it. I stayed and I was lonely. I stayed and I was angry. I stayed and I wondered every single day if I made the wrong choice. In the Bible, there were 12 apostles, but Judas betrayed Jesus and left. And then there were 11. 11 faithful ones who stayed, even when staying meant danger. Even when staying meant watching everything they believed in die on a cross. 11 is the number of those who remain. 11 is the number of faithfulness tested. And you, little Esmeralda, need to learn about 11. Because you are the 13th, which means you know what it's like when people leave. You know what it's like to be left behind. And I am here to teach you the other side, what it means to be the one who stays. What it means to be the one who stays. They call me Astrid, divine strength. And I learned what that means through staying. Divine strength is not being strong enough to never feel pain. It's not being tough enough to not care when people love, and it's not being independent enough to not need anyone. Divine strength is feeling the pain and staying anyways. Caring desperately and staying anyways. Needing people and staying with yourself anyway when they leave. Divine strength is deciding, I will stay with myself even when he leaves. So this is my gift to you on the 11th day, Esmeralda. The divine strength to stay, not to stay in place. Places change. Not to stay in relationship. Relationships end, but to stay with yourself. Stay with Esmeralda. When they call you illegitimate, stay with Sister Saga. When they say you're too much, stay with Princess Amorina. When they try to uproot you, stay with the daffodil who blooms in stones. When everything says leave yourself, become someone else, stay with Alice. Stay, stay, stay. Not because it's easy, not because it's rewarded, not because Malcolm comes back, because he won't, but because staying with yourself is the only foundation that can never be taken from you. 7 years I stayed. 7 years I chose Astrid. 7 years I remained faithful to myself when he was not faithful to us. Staying with myself was the divine strength I needed. And now I give that strength to you. Tomorrow is the 12th day. And she knelt beside the cradle one final time. Tomorrow is the 12th day, she whispered. Tomorrow is Maya. Tomorrow is Epiphany. Tomorrow is when everything you've learned come together. Tomorrow is the revelation. But for today, you are the one who stays. Not because staying is easy. Not because staying is rewarded. I am Astrid, divine strength. And I was divinely beautiful. Not when I was trying to keep Malcolm from leaving, but when I stayed anyway, when I stayed with myself, when I survived 7 years of wondering if I made the right choice. You are Astrid's heir. You are the one who stays. You are the 11th faithful. And tomorrow you will understand why staying mattered, why faithfulness to yourself was worth 7 years of grief, why being the one who remains is the most divine strength of all. She touched Esmeralda's forehead. A blessing, a burden, a gift. Stay, stay, stay. It's enough.